alumni feel embarrassed that they went to Harvard, where for decades they had felt very proud of it. And to me, that was sort of a stunning line, that people are just sort of fed up with what they see as inaction and response. It's not only the lack of immediate response after the attack, but it's the protests that keep happening. And there was a posting from Harvard Hillel that described an incident last week that is disrupting classes. Students don't feel comfortable going to the dining halls, going to university events.
Yeah, I've seen some videos where
classrooms.
It's like, yeah, students are, I can't imagine this ever happening at my college. Like, you're in a class and somebody comes in and just starts essentially protesting, completely disrupting the class. It looks like the professor has no power, no recourse. And the students all just like sit there and let this happen.
And the criticism is, how is this free speech if it's disruption and hate speech? How are you getting an education if you can't participate in your classes? And that is what alumni feel betrayed, and that it's such a gutting reaction that they're willing to say this is not right, and imagine how much people are paying or taking out loans to go to school and have this disruption.
So bring in the alumni, because we're seeing these protests and issues at different college campuses. You and I were talking before we got going. 60 Minutes did a piece, and they talked about what's going on at Columbia. They also showed some of how Dartmouth is handling it. So there's a lot of issues. What specifically, though, is getting really at the Harvard alumni? Is it the way the university is ultimately handling all of this?
Yes. Again, there isn't the type of discourse and education that's going on. If students are, as Mitt Romney and Seth Klarman described in a letter, they're staying in their dorm rooms. Students are taking their names off of their names in dorms because they're afraid of repercussions. And that isn't a place where they recognize the Harvard that they attended a decade or more ago.
So it raises the question about whether or not these alumni have any power. $51 billion.
So yes,
that's
their
Harvard's endowment.
That is their endowment.
Does it matter if a few alumni donate $1?
It does.
Rather than,
because where does that endowment come from? It comes from fundraising, and it's been invested well over time. And look, their 10-year return is not so great. It's the second lowest in the Ivy League. So they need money coming in every year, to help with those returns. Inflation is up. So whatever they're earning, they need help to bolster their returns. Is private equity going to give them the returns that they had? They're still suffering from investment decisions that they made selling private equity on the secondary market after the crisis. That their returns are not so terrific compared to their peers.
Oh, but alumni are specifically, Janet, and help me here. They want the administration, they want the president of Harvard University, to step up and actually do what?
Perhaps say that these protests in classrooms, disruptions, hate speech versus free speech is not the way to go.
And what's the president doing?
There's a task force she created. It's called an advisory committee.
And she's going to be in Congress. Is it tomorrow?
She will be testifying before Congress tomorrow on this very topic. She has said perhaps this should be within DEI. And Bill Ackman, a Harvard College alum and a Harvard Business School alum, has given a whole host of things that he would suggest her doing. And what he had said on Twitter today is she hasn't responded, and it's been almost a month.